Yeah. No, that's what I meant. Did I say self-created? What I really meant was, yeah, the universe is self-existent. Oh, the universe is self-existent. Okay, no problem. The universe is self-existent. Let's look at that. Yeah, you don't need a God. No problem. For this, let's consider what is called the cosmological argument. Okay? This one's formulated like this, and I'll do it in 1 second. Premise 1. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. Again, premise 1. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. Okay? Premise 2. The universe began to exist. Premise 2. The universe began to exist. Therefore, number 3, the universe has a cause. Therefore, number 3, the universe has a cause. Okay. Now, if premise 1 and if premise 2 are correct and true, then number 3, therefore the universe has a cause, logically follows from that. Okay? If premise 1 and premise 2 are correct and true, number 3 logically follows. Okay? But that's the question. Are the first two premises more plausibly true than their negation? Are they more plausibly true than its opposite otherwise? Let's look at it. Premise 1. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. We know based on, experience, things like that, right? That some things are caused to be, some things are caused to continue to be, and some things are both, right? Some things are caused to be, some things are caused to continue to be, and some things are both, right? Let's take a man playing a piano. We know that when this man is playing the piano, that he is the cause of the music that we hear. He's the cause of that, okay? And if he stops, what happens? The music stops. If he stops, the music stops, okay? To say that the music can cause itself to be heard is to do what? Ignore those two fundamental laws of logic. You're ignoring those, right? To say that the universe can cause itself to be heard is to ignore those two fundamental principles of logic. Because like we discovered before, right? A thing cannot create itself, and if an effect is found, then by necessity, you can be certain that there is a cause. Certain that there's a cause, right? Let's take this. Let's take a car. You're driving down the street, right? You're driving down the street. Do you ever just see a Tesla just pop in front of you? No driver, no cause, no nothing. You never see that ever happen, right? Now, okay, a lot of cops have probably heard that story, but it's safe to say you've probably never seen that happen without a cause, right? Or a building, right? You're walking down the street. Have you ever seen a building just pop into being from non-being? You've never seen it. Okay, now, and Dr. William Lane Craig, who's a philosopher, he's pretty much mastered this, right? This argument here. He says that if it's not the case that whatever begins to exist has a cause, then it becomes inexplicable as to why anything and everything doesn't just pop into being from non-being, right? It becomes inexplicable as to why anything and everything doesn't just pop into being from non-being, okay? Premise 2. The universe began to exist, okay? Now, premise 2, the universe began to exist. Now, there's two different ways that we can handle this, philosophically and scientifically, okay? Let's look philosophically first. Number 1, an infinite number of days has no end. Again, an infinite number of days has no end. Number 2, today is the end of history, right? Why? Because tomorrow hasn't come yet. Today is the end of history. Therefore, number 3, there were not an infinite number of days before today. Therefore, number 3, there were not an infinite number of days before today. This is the past. Okay, point here is today. Okay. This is, let's say, 5 years ago. And that's today, right? Now, if that line is infinite into the past, can you ever add anything to an infinite number? No, it's infinite. You can't add anything to an infinite. I'll explain that a little better. Suppose you're at a park. You're in a park. You're just walking around. You're admiring the squirrels, the birds, right? And then you hear a guy. He's just sitting there. He's counting. He says, 3, 2, 1. Phew. Oh, my goodness, I did it. Holy smokes, this guy seems very accomplished. What did you do? The guy says, you won't believe it. I just counted down from infinity. Wait a second, what? You just counted down from infinity? Would you just walk away and say, wow, this guy's a freaking genius, you know? You wouldn't do that. Why? Because not only, to count down from infinity, first of all, not only would you never be able to begin to start, because there's always a number before you could even start, you would never be able to finish counting down from infinity, because before you finish, there's already a number to count before you can finish. There cannot be an infinite series or an infinite number of past events, right? Now, it's the same thing with the number of days, right? So if the past was infinite, then today never would have gotten here. There would always be another day before today, but today is here. So it's more plausible than not that the number of days before today is not eternal, but finite, and it had a beginning. Again, otherwise, today never would have gotten here. Never would have gotten here, okay? What about scientifically? Okay, scientifically. For this, we look at the first and the second law of thermodynamics. First and the second law of thermodynamics, okay? The first law of thermodynamics says this. First law of thermodynamics says that the amount of energy in the universe is finite and limited. That's the first law of thermodynamics. It says that the amount of energy in the universe is finite and it's limited, okay? The second law of thermodynamics says that the universe is slowly running out of usable energy. Slowly running out of usable energy. So how does that relate to the beginning of the universe? Okay. Let's picture your car, okay? Your car has a limited amount of gas, right? Just like the universe has a limited amount of usable energy, right? Your car has a limited amount of gas. If your car had been running for an infinite amount of time, as the atheists suggest that the universe has, it would have run out of gas already, right? If your car had been running for an infinite amount of time with a finite amount of gas, then it would have ran out of gas already, right? And if not, I want that car. Since the universe has not run out of usable energy yet, it is more plausible than not to conclude that the universe is not infinite, but it's finite, and it had a beginning, okay? So like I said, if premise 1 and if premise 2 are true, then the conclusion, therefore the universe has a cause, is also true. It logically follows. Now, since the universe had a cause, and that cause cannot be due to being self-existent, right? On the no God hypothesis, the atheist is stuck. He's stuck, okay? So I'm going to summarize what we just went through, okay? And I'm getting there. I'm getting there. The universe exists. And since the universe exists, there must be an explanation for its existence, right? The universe exists, and since it exists, there must be an explanation for its existence. We saw that it can't be because it's self-created, right? Self-caused, because that violates the law of non-contradiction, right? It can't be and not be at the same time, so it can't be self-caused. It's an impossibility. And then we saw that it cannot be because it's self-existent, right? Philosophically, because today is the end of history and an infinite number of days has no end. And since today is the end of history because tomorrow hasn't come yet, it's probably more true that there hasn't been an infinite number of days in the past. And then scientifically, we looked at the law of thermodynamics, right? The universe is running out of energy. If the universe had been infinite, it would have ran out of energy already. Therefore, the universe had a cause and a beginning.